Good evening, this is Nick Inman from VolumeProfileTrader.com on Friday, December 16th, and we're going to cover a sector in particular, the XLE, the energy ETF, and some of its holdings, and we have a few other names that we want to cover. So let's just jump into the XLE, and every Friday or every weekend I go through the sectors, see which sector perform the best relative to basically an absolute performance and relative to volume profile. And I came across the XLE tonight and saw that it looks the most poised for a potential move higher. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to move higher, but looking at where it's at now and looking at the potential risk reward, I feel like the energy sector is a place that you want to be for any potential move higher in the market. And the reason why is if I zoom in here and look at this December composite, point of control is formed at the bottom of the range. Generally speaking, that's a bullish development. And it's not a real big price range around here, which leads me to believe maybe we can bounce back, have a decent move higher in XLE back to the recent balance range. It's definitely underperformed relative to the rest of the market in the past couple of days, but I think this is a name or a sector that you really want to keep your eye on, and if not, scale into a few names right here, right now. So I'm going to get into the few. First, ExxonMobil, because it's the heaviest weighting in the XLE, about 18%, I believe, in the XLE or something like that. So one thing that's positive is we continue to hold November's point of control. So long as we do this, I think this is a name you can easily be long. You can see that we're zooming into December. We've just been balancing since we've traded off of this November point of control. It's a name that you want to see stay above the point of control. If we can start trading north of 80.50, that's probably positive. We're probably going to then trade up to 81.70 or so, and hopefully break out to the upside on Exxon. Next, looking at ConocoPhillips. And this name, it's not as developed as, for example, Exxon, but you can see there's a lot of volume over the past couple of days in this range. And if we spend a few more days in this range, point of control shift, that means the buyers in the month of December at one particular price is at the lower end of the range, and if price can get above there, that means there's either too many short sellers or there's enough buyers that they're all, basically the buyers are winning in this month, and they can push this thing back north of 71. So ConocoPhillips, I think you give it a little bit of time, but watch it, keep it on your radar. It's not as developed as Exxon, it's not as defined in the uptrend, but it still looks pretty good. Okay, Schlumberger, and this is a name that actually, it looks similar to the XLE, and if I'm going to zoom out again, you can see that really the balance range we had in October, that's generally been support in this stock, and the top of the range has been around, let's call it 77, 78, and you can see we're at the bottom of the range. Point of control for December is at this bottom of the range. Looks like we can get long this name and have a stop. The most important thing, we can get along this name and put a stop right under these recent swing lows around 65, maybe just south of 65. That gives you about $2 worth of risk on a $67 stock, so not too bad. Anadarko Petroleum, this is a name, like all the others, looks similar to the XLE, holding the point of control for the entire composite going back, these 5 months, and you can see that these, not only is it the point of control support for the last 4 or 5 months, but it's also a recent swing low. So we have some lower highs going on, and we have basically double bottom at whatever you want to call it. We have lows at the same level, point of control for the range. Would like to see December's point of control form at the bottom of this range, but this is a name that I think you can place your stop right around $2 lower than current prices, a name that you can be involved in. So those are some energy choices. Now going into some other names that look poised for move higher that we have covered in the past couple of days. One being DuPont, and this is a name you can see it's done most of its work, most of its volume in the past 4 or 5 months in this call it 43 to 49 range, and right now it's at 43. December's point of control is at the bottom of the range. Composite point of control is at the bottom of the range. It broke out of this bullish wedge pattern. I think you go and test around 47 on this name, which is, I guess you could call this a little bit of downside resistance. It's the value area high for December. You can see the volume that's been up here, both in November, which was the point of control, and December. So I think this is a name that you can be involved in. Celgene, this is a name that's been quietly working if you've been buying on the dips, and I think that you should stick with this strategy so long as price can stay above these recent swing lows of, or call it 62.80. That's where I would keep my stop, because we have higher lows going on, and if you want to keep your stop back below this trend line support, that's fine, but I don't think it's really necessary. I think this is a name that you want to see break above these recent highs and say push towards 65, 66 before it comes back down to 62.50 or so. And so long as price can stay above this point of control, it looks poised to make a run towards 65 or 66. Amgen, I covered this last night, I believe, Thursday night, talking about how it's holding its point of control above its point of control for December. It's bouncing off the composite point of control, which has been, you see October's point of control has really been the bottom of this range, but it was the bottom of November's high volume area also. We have composite point of control having a nice bounce. This thing's breaking out to the upside. Any pullback around 59, 59.5, you look for buyers. When you get buyers, the buyers come in, you buy with them, you place your stop right below. It's not much more harder than that, because you get your breakout, you get your test of the breakout, you want to see buyers come in. Once buyers come in, you don't want price to come back below there. If it does, it'll probably pull back a little more. So Amgen looks pretty good. EMC, this is a name fundamentally, it honestly is one of my favorites, and that's not necessarily a good thing in the stock world, but I think it's something that you can look at being long, and especially if we get a point of control shift in December, it will have, you have November's point of control, which is, you can call it resistance right now, and you can wait until price clears above it, but we have the composite point of control, which has done a fairly good job of the last couple of months holding, price staying above those levels. And this is a name that I think if you don't rush in and buy, but keep an eye on it. Don't take it off your radar, because this is a name that could work to the upside. GE, this is a name that has made a new high relative to the month and continues to work for buyers. Since the lows in November, we've had a nice snapback and have, able to hold November's point of control, and then able to hold really October's point of control. You see this big cluster of volume, really 1620 or so. That's your major level that you're looking at. And if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that, let me get rid of these lines real quick. Okay, so our highs kind of draw a downtrending line. Our lows an uptrending line. We have kind of this tight pattern forming. We get a breakout to the upside. We held it so far today, so I think this is a name you continue to stay long. If it comes back below December's point of control, I think that's your stop. Not. Alright, Intel. This is a name that I took advantage of the weakness and bought a little bit today. I think that we're poised for a potential, if we can hold these levels, really call it $23. You can see the huge volume, really from $23 up to $25, and then from there on down, it definitely tapers off, gets a lot lighter. So we want to see these levels hold. We want to see December's point of control shift to this 23.37 to 23.45 range. If that's the case, and price can get above, if we get composite point of control to shift, which it looks like it will, probably within the next day or so, I would be urging people to get long with that at least a $2 upside target. Coke, this is a name that has broken down from its recent downtrend, and we're testing. Well, today was pretty strong for Coke. It gapped higher. It came to test the gap. The bulls held it, and so far so good, right? So I think this is a name you want to be long. I think you can place your stop back within this congestion from December's bounce area. You still have to clear December's highs, but keep a stop right, definitely sub 67, but north of 66, 65. So, it's not 66, 65, 66.50. So I guess you could have it at 66, 65, but watch it. You really want to see it stay above December's point of control. You see it's also the bottom of this high volume area from 66.90 to 67.75, let's call it. So Coke looks pretty good also. And actually, that is it. So I hope these are a few names that work. Keep an eye on energy. Let's actually look at oil before I let you go. And we see that oil has really shot down from December's point of control. That was a great trade. We actually talked about that on a video one night. And you can see it's holding a high volume area back from October, the end of October. And you can see it, after 92.50, let's call it, it really drops down until we get to about 89.50, which is September's point of control. So oil should, with the energy sector, it should catch a bounce here. Energy should be one of the top performers, and I think this is a sector that you can be long. We covered Exxon, we covered Conoco, Schlumberger, and Anadarko. So I think those are a few names that you can look at, plus all of the other names that we covered. I hope this helps, and I'll see you on Monday.